let me show you a symbol, an interlocked double triangle that I saw in the Shakti Peeth or Kali temple in Kathmandu. Here, this symbol is associated with lotus. These possibly indicate that the symbol was used by the matriarchal and learned Kali worshipping community because lotus signifies wisdom and knowledge. I am discussing this particular symbol because it is possible to trace the journey of this symbol along with the Indian origin matriarchal community who migrated along the Trans-Himalayan migration route along river Kali Gandaki. Thereafter, emergence of this same symbol on the Mediterranean coast, which is presently displayed on the national flag of Israel, and finally reappearance of this symbol in the Buddhist shrines. I photographed a similar symbol in front of the library of Marfa village in north central Nepal. This implies that the fraternity traveled along this Trans-Himalayan migration path. Marfa is a Thakali community village located on the bank of Kali Gandaki river. This symbol is also visible in Buddhist shrines. It is associated with knowledge and adopted by the Buddhists as a sacred symbol. In all probability, this symbol was used by the Pali-speaking matriarchal learned Gojo fraternity. Here also it is associated with lotus. Their settlement on the Mediterranean coast was known as Palistan and Gojo. They are now known as Palestine and Gaza Strip respectively. Does it give an idea that an Indian origin matriarchal fraternity preferred to use this symbol which followed this Trans-Himalayan highway to reach the Mediterranean coast? The reverse migration fraternities from there used the same symbol as they returned to India and adopted Buddhism. Interestingly, almost a similar symbol of blue double triangle is seen on the flag of Israel. This is known as David's triangle and Solomon's seal there, but it is not known when and how the symbol surfaced there. There are a large number of evidences to establish that reverse migration Indian origin fraternities from the Mediterranean region had returned and settled in the Himalayas and Northeast India. I have dealt with this subject elaborately in my book. I would like to show you a short video on this subject. As I explored its northeastern states for 6 years, I was convinced that they had an ethnic connectivity with the Red Sea region. I have explained some of them in the video.
I have been exploring Northeast India since 1975. As I extensively explored the 7 states of Northeast India, I realized that the reverse migration fraternities had settled in the region since a very early period. During the land route migration period, they had come through the Uttarapath along river Brahmaputra in the north. Many of them had settled in the higher reaches of the Himalayas like Monpas of Tawang, while some others descended to the Brahmaputra valley constructing Eta Fort, Bhishmaknagar and Rukmininagar forts and so on. Sea route reverse migration fraternities arrived later and settled in the region using 2 different routes. One fraternity who arrived from the Red Sea region to the Bay of Bengal ascended along the rivers of Bangladesh to settle in Assam, Meghalaya and Tripura. Thus we find ancient Greek art popularly known as Hellenistic art in the 6th century Dahaporbotia temple of Tejpur. In Koilashahar, Tripura, we find unusual huge rock-cut images of Shiva in the Unakoti temple complex. Indian origin people had extraordinary skill in rock cutting and handling huge stone blocks. It is possible that they created obelisk in Egypt and Stonehenge in Europe 3000 to 5000 years ago. Following their reverse migration, they continued to create such unfathomable stone blocks in the Indian subcontinent as the skill was indigenous. Natyang monoliths of Meghalaya created till as late as 1883 are 8 meters tall and are quite comparable in dimension to that of the Stonehenge of England. In fact, the horizontal round plates about 1 foot thick are more difficult to cut, but they are not known to the world. The reverse migration fraternities from Red Sea region entered the Northeast Indian states from the east also, as they ascended along river Iravati and Chinwin. The Ahoms reached along this route in the 13th century. The ancestral memorials of Ahom in Choraidao are known as Maidems, which are miniature replicas of the pyramids of Egypt. In fact, the oldest Egyptian pyramids were also known as Maidems. The Hebrew name of Egypt is Mizraim. Mizos had been given visa by Israel as they were considered to be one of the lost tribes of Israel. One of the oldest Egyptian documents, Periplus of the Erythraean Sea, compiled at the beginning of the Christian era, mentions about the connectivity of the Red Sea and Northeast India. My extensive exploration of Northeast India provided me with definite evidences of its connectivity with the Red Sea region and Africa. I had to embark on an excursion to Egypt where, to my surprise, I found more evidences than I expected. Over a period, I could arrange the entire process of the onward migration of the Indian origin fraternities and their reverse migration back to India.
This is the onward migration map to explain that Indian origin fraternities migrated to distant lands following various routes. They established ancient civilization in Sumer, Mesopotamia, Egypt, and Greece long ago, as discussed before. Imagine what happened when a large number of Indian origin fraternities returned to India during their reverse migration, and very few Indian origin people were left in those regions to sustain those civilizations. As those civilizations were essentially maintained by the Indian origin people, as a result, they collapsed over a period of time. Interestingly, all the major ancient civilizations collapsed around more or less the same period time. In fact, the period when they collapsed provides an idea about the exact time when the Indian origin people withdrew from those locations.